Alright, hello guys, Andy here, and today we have part 2 of my rainbow series. This was inspired by Baddie Bean and the rainbow series that she did over on her channel last year, where I'm just picking one color every time I do this and showing you my favorite items from that specific color in my collection. And today we are doing red in honor of my friend's birthday. This is her favorite color, and this was the color I wanted to do, so I was super excited. So if you want to see all of my favorite red items, shimmer, mattes, lips, eyes, you name it, we've got it. Then just stay tuned. Everything that's on my face will be listed in the description box. And if you like makeup unboxings, project painting content with a little bit of horror sprinkled in, please consider subscribing, as I would love to have you here. And let's get on into today's video. Alright, so it is mostly eyeshadow because red, but we do have a couple other things. So we're going to start with, I have two liquid liners. My one that's in a project, this is the Lottie London and Vampire Diaries red face pen. And this is a more light red, which once I roll this out of a project, I'll probably just throw this one away because I just don't like this tone of red, especially once we compare it to this ZC liner. And this is in, I believe it was cherry red, but this one's super dark. It's more on that wine color, which I tried to stay away from the more darker reds, but there are some sprinkled in here because it's still red, but I can go back in my eyeliner stash. But that is a much more flattering red eyeliner color than this. So, two eyeliners. We do have two lips. So the one that's on my lips today, this is the Pat McGrath Satin Allure lipstick in Crimson Ecstasy. I don't really think I need to swatch it for you because it's what's on my lips, but this is in a project currently, and I do really enjoy this red. And then against my darker red lipstick, this is a NYX Shout Loud lipstick in the shade Wife Goals. Which, let me swatch the other one because so you can see them next to each other, the reason why I kept both. Because this Pat McGrath one is a much lighter red. Like, it almost looks pink with my lighting, but it is red, I promise. But those are my two red lips. That is all I have. I don't wear red lips often, so I am very much okay with just having those two. And then we have two cheek products, and everything else is going to be eyeshadow. So, because a lot of my cheek products are pink or corally orange, because those I'll probably I'll group coral and orange together. Pink will be its own thing, and I'll put mauve with pink. So these are going to be decidedly like red or burgundy, like this. This is the NYX Sweet Cheeks Glow Blush in the shade Red Riot. And this is more of that burgundy, but it's red. It's got some shimmer in there. This is a really beautiful color on the cheeks. I had this in a project last year, and I really fell in love with this, so that is that one. And then from my Jeffree Star Heartbreaker Skin Frost palette, we're going to do Frosty Heart, which I know doesn't look red, but when I swatched it next to things, like, it's giving that, like, red undertone. So that'll probably be the most abstract red color that we're going to get to today, but that's for more of a highlight. Now, everything else we're going to talk about is eyeshadow. And we'll get to it. I'm going to start with we'll save singles for last. So let me just group these. So we have one-offs, Glam Light, ColourPop, ColourPop, Okay. One-offs. One-offs. All right. So, we'll put all these over there. And we will start with the one-off palettes first and save my singles for the end. So, some of these palettes are completely red. Some of these palettes just have 1 or 2 red shades in them. The palettes that are completely red, I'm probably only going to swatch my favorite 3 or 4 shades out of them, the best reds, because I don't need this video to be any longer than it's already going to be. So, we'll just start with what I put on top. This is the St. Angel Sinners collab with Ice Cream Beauty. This was their Friendsgiving palette. And we're going to look at these 2 shades here, which are Sugar Cookie, which is a satin, and Cranberry, which Cranberry kind of teeters on orange, but it's got a red glitter going through it. That's probably going to be the most orange that we're going to swatch today. If we swatch some things that don't belong here, we're playing fast and loose. It's not the end of the world. But I just feel like that's going to be too red for the orange. And it looks too orange for the reds, but that's okay. Next, from Makeup Revolution, this is the Beetlejuice palette. I myself am Strange and Unusual. And we're going to swatch the 3, because this is more of a pink. So we have this red, and then we have a satin, and we have a shimmer. So we have Beetle, which is the matte. Then we have Strange, which is the satin, and Utterly Alone, which that might be teetering on pink. So they look pretty red. That shimmer, if I can pronounce things, it does teeter a little bit on pink, but it's got that red shimmer throughout it. So, but look at that matte. That matte red is so good. Like, the mattes in this palette were phenomenal. Not going to talk about it, how I, decluttered this palette. This is the Ditto Venus palette, which looks like this. And we're going to talk about the shade Callisto, which is a red shimmer, and then Venus, which is a highlight, which has a red shift. I hope I can catch the right light so you can see that like red shift. Let me see if I can build Venus up just a little bit. There, you can see it a little bit. It's got that red shift because it's not really a pink. It's like a reddy orange. So we're getting that. We're classifying that as red. Now, from Profusion, this is their Neons palette, and I'm putting this one in here because this red Heat Wave is the same red shade that is in their big Kaleidoscope palette. And I figured if I was going to swatch one, it would just be easier to swatch this smaller palette. So that is the shade Heat Wave, which is more on the brighter red, obviously, because it's a neon, but still really beautiful. I enjoy it. We do have one from Natasha Denona. This is the Sunset palette, and it's the shade Panjin. It's the red right there, which I really need to break this palette out more. So there's Panjin. And last, for one-offs, this is the Avani, Greg, and Morphe collab for the Bebs palette. And we're going to talk about 2 things. One, we're going to talk about this red shadow right here. But then I'm not going to swatch it. But we do have a red cake liner, which is called Gymnast Memes. Which is just, it's a red cake liner. But I don't want to go get water and swatch that for you. But the red matte shade here is the shade Clown. And it's pigmented to all get out. Like, this palette is so nice. And the cake liners actually perform very well. So now the rest of these, I have 2 palettes from each brand, so that works out. We'll start with ColourPop. So I had to put in my Wine and Only palette, which does lean more on the berry side, but the shade in the center, Play to Wine, is like decidedly red. Whereas the rest of the palette I really feel leans berry. That is red. And let's, here. That might be too dark. Yeah, I'm not going to swatch that. I just wanted to see, but yeah, so there's that one shade from the Wine and Only. And then we have the Lost in Love palette, which is their newest Valentine's Day collab. And I really think I'm just going to do this one right here, which is Fave Texts. So there's that one there. So very, very nice. Now let's get into Melt. So we have the Muerte palette, which has one really nice, well, actually, we could probably swatch both. These are both, like, that's also a reddy brown, but we're going to swatch both of these, which is Corazon and Sangre. I'll probably horribly mispronouncing those, but it's fine. Ooh, yeah, that was a little darker than I probably wanted to go, but it's here now. But that red, that's Corazon, and that's more of what we were looking for. And then we also have the Bad Side Zodiac, the Fire palette, which has 2 very nice reds. We have a matte and a shimmer. So the matte is Hothead, and the shimmer is Ego Trip. Which are right here. And those are very, very nice. We'll end with Glamlight. So I have 2 from Jeffree Star. This is the Weirdo palette, which is what is, for the mattes, what is on my eye. And really, all I want to swatch, because though this has a red undertone, it leans very berry. We're just going to swatch Scene Queen, which is the bright red. Which is right there. I do really enjoy this palette. And then we can swatch, there are 2 reds in the Jawbreaker palette. We have the shade Licorice and What. So Licorice is a matte, and What is a shimmer. And What has a little bit of more of a pink undertone, but it's still pretty red. It's more red than pink. So I'm going to go ahead and wash these off really quickly just so we can do the 2 Glamlight palettes. Before we get into Glamlight palettes, I almost forgot to show you my red singles that I had pulled out. I'm a dummy. I set them off to the side, so I have 8. Not a lot, but we have a couple different brand varieties. So I have 3 here from Clarity Cosmetics. So this is the shade Posh, which is more of that deeper red. Then we have Use the Magnet. This is Rain of Fire, and this is like one of their flaky shadows. So it's a very interesting texture. So it doesn't swatch the best, but it's so interesting. I find it very nice to have in my collection. And then one more from Clarity. Let me wipe my fingers off. Which is like a true red, and this is the shade Code Red. All the swatches I've wiped off, these shades aren't swatching as best as they would have been earlier, but that's not the shadow's fault, that's my fault. I have one shade from Sydney Grace, and this is the shade Yours Forever that I got in like a mystery bundle. Ooh, that one's beautiful. And then I have 4 from Pretties for Your Face. So we have, this is one of their blushes, but I got it in an eyeshadow size pan. This is Bobbing for Apples. And this is like a satin formula. So that's Bobbing for Apples. Then we have Trinbago, which this one is on the outer corner of my eye today. I love Trinbago. Then we have, this is the shade Terror, which is more of that dark based red. And last but not least, for my singles, we have Sally. Which is also more of like a satin. And it's more of that like candy apple red. So that's all my Pretties for Your Face shades. Now we can get into the Glam Light palettes, the 2 that I had left, and that will be everything for all of my reds. So we can get into that now. Alright, and the last 2 palettes we have are the Camp Crystal Lake Friday the 13th palette. We have New Blood and Camp Blood. These 2 reds here. Which are both very dark. But they still are true reds. They don't lean too much on that like berry, which I really like. Really need to pull this palette out. And then our full like red palette. This is the Icy Collab, the Cherry palette, which looks like this. Which, I mean, we have some pinks in here, but let's pull Wild Cherry, Treat, Fruity, and why not? And Colorful Tongue. 2 mattes, 2 shimmers. Boom. And that is all the Glam Light. Let me see if that White Cherry shade has like a red duochrome to it. Get all the red off. Or if it's just a white. Nope, it has like a little bit of a pink. I wish it was more of a red. But that's okay. But that is everything for today's video. I know this was shorter than my silvers and icy whites because I had much more of those in my collection. I find that red shadow, true reds especially, are very hard to come by. And they're not usually, like, I have more reds in my collection, but they aren't good. So I'm not going to show you guys things that I don't enjoy. These are all palettes and formulas that, of course, these are my favorite reds. I'm only showing you guys my favorites of these said colors in my collection. So if you have any other reds that you recommend, I would love your recommendations in the comments because I just find that red, true red, is a very hard color to come by. So I would love to hear those down below. And leave in the comments what color you would like to see me do next, because we have a whole rainbow to go. And as always, I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.